I just thank you all once again for being here, taking time out of your busy days to come and listen to Heather. I would like to open with a prayer, so if you would remove your caps, that'd be great. So Lord, as we just come before you at this time, and we just thank you for all the people that got here safely. We pray for their safe return to go home. We just ask that all the information we get, we can take to heart, put to our lives, and just be people that, as Idahoans, just to be proud of each other, to stand with each other. If it gets worse, to be beside the people. We have neighbors, we have all the people that come to our aid as necessary. And Lord, we thank you for the greatest aid and there is, and that is you. So in Jesus' name, we just ask these things. Amen.
Amen.
We're going to do a pledge, so you might want to keep your hats off. Jack over there is going to start us off. If everybody would just pitch in afterwards.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Well, I know everybody here knows this young lady that's behind me. I, for one, am awful. I guess I don't have to say nothing about it. But I will say this, my wife and I, Jan, she's not here today anyway, she's just not here. Backaches. Anyone have them? You know. We're very proud to have her as our representative, and we're proud of the work she does and will continue to do. We are proud that she loves the Lord with all her heart, soul, mind. We're proud that she loves the Constitution, and we're proud that she loves our state constitution and is willing to battle the enemies over it. So I'm going to get out of her way. One more time, put your hands together for Heather Scott.
I haven't even said anything yet, so he might not like what I have to say. That might be dangerous, starting out that way. Thank you for coming. It's a beautiful night, and I'm guessing there's a lot of other things you might want to do except talk politics, but I'm going to try to get you up to speed and let you know what's going on in the state as quick as I can, and then open it up for Q&A. I've got a lot to talk about, and so I'm going to talk fast. If I'm talking too fast, just stand up and say, slow down. Okay, I want to get through the material, but I do want to make sure that you're following. So if it's just too much or you need me to slow down or whatever, let me know. I want to thank some people, Glenn and Jan. Will you guys just stand if you're somewhere close? Vicki and Andy Matlock and Alan. They took care of this whole place for me. They rented it. That's what the donation bins are for out there. They said, we want you to come talk to Priest River. So I appreciate that. All I had to do was show up. They set up the chairs, and hopefully you all will help them stack up the chairs before we leave tonight. But thank you guys for doing it. It's really helpful. Okay, you ready? Here we go. Let me get a drink. I got like 20 pages, but I'm not gonna read it. Okay, so I've been down in Boise since January 6th. I came home for 2 weeks. They had a COVID scare, and they decided they'd shut us down and send us home because 6 people were around someone that had COVID. And so packed up, I came home, I think it was maybe in late March for 2 weeks, And then this is the only other time I've been home for 5 days. So if you haven't seen me doing town halls or doing anything, that's why. I've been down fighting the fight. And just for you that don't know, when I'm down there, I'm all in. So I'm not, I think you guys can take care of stuff going on up here. And so that's why I haven't, been around much. So we've had some successes, we've had a lot of failures, but I'm gonna first to go through real quickly some of the big ticket items so you know what's going on. And I thought I'd start with income taxes and property taxes and grocery taxes because that seems to affect us the most. And there's nothing that drives me more nuts is to see the waste going on down in Boise and know my people up north are busting their butts to work to pay for all this nonsense. We have had so many proposals for good tax bills to give relief to the citizens, and they will not let our bills be heard. Leadership basically controls through the committee process what bills get heard, what bills don't. We had a bill that would actually tie the exemption you get to the rising home prices, so nobody would be taxed out of their house. When your property values go up, your exemption goes up. We had 50 co-sponsors on that bill, and they would not let that bill be heard. They've messed with this all year and just give you lip service. You just can't get a straight answer out of any of them. Finally, last week, the day before we left, which was Wednesday, they had their bill. And it's pretty lame, but it's the best you're gonna get with the people that are in control down there. So I'm gonna go through, it's got all these moving parts to it and all these pieces to it, and I don't know what it's gonna do, but it's a total of about $8 to $10 million in property tax cuts. That's not very much when you think of the entire state, but I will let you know. So it increases the homeowner's exemption from $100,000 to $125,000. It increases your personal property exemption for businesses and agriculture from $150,000 to $250,000. So that'll help the businesses. It ends the practice for districts to classify sometimes when you change your property value or if you turn it to agriculture, that sometimes the counties will play around with the way they register your property. It stops that, whether it's intentional by your assessor or non-intentional. They've stopped that playing back and forth. It increases the circuit breaker benefit for seniors and veterans by $1,500. And then it limits the budget increase for districts to a cap of 8% per year, including foregone taxing authority. I am not an expert on taxes. Representative Ron Nate is. I know many of you have told me you get his newsletters. He's back now. He got reelected after they took him out a couple years ago. He's a tax expert. And so if you get his newsletters, he will dig way deep into the tax issues. If you have a serious question, he's probably the one to talk to. And if you call me, I usually forward you to him. There's lots of great ideas, but there's one person that controls everything that goes through that tax committee in and out of it. And that's one legislator from Southern Idaho. And unfortunately, that's what you got down there. So you're gonna get something, but I don't think you're gonna notice much. I'm gonna try to keep going until, I know there's probably some questions, but if I have questions on every one, we'll never get through. I was gonna move on to the Second Amendment, but I figured no one here cares about that, right? We'll just go right on. A balance of powers between the legislature and the governor. We'll get to the Second Amendment. I know that's a big one. So the balance of powers, as you know, our governor has been out of control. He's pretty much appointed himself as a tyrant and basically he's violated the Constitution. We had a special session last year in the middle of summer, and the Senate was like, we're gonna rein him in, and the legislature, the House, we passed stuff that said we wanna do it. But as the millenniums would say, epic failure. Nothing has happened yet. There's been all kinds of, they told us from day one, so back in January, our leadership, said, our leadership told us they had 5 veto-proof bills to address the governor's emergency controls. So he will never be able to do what he did again, to shut down churches and schools and change laws. He changed, I think, 57 different laws. He just rewrote them to what he wanted them to say. And so they guaranteed us, we had these 5 veto bills, proof bills, you just had to sign on. And those bills, the language in a lot of the new people just signed right on and said, okay, I'll vote for it. They didn't even know what they did. I'm guessing that some of those bills were written by the governor himself. They did nothing to rein in his power. They were really vague. The language was horrible, but they were veto proof. So I spent a lot of my time down there this year working on language, trying to get better language. I knew they were going to pass something, and I just spent a lot of my time trying to talk to legislators about how bad certain language was, how he could wiggle around certain language. All that being said, we finally, a couple weeks ago, came up with finally a bill that would rein him in. I think we had 5 bills, and maybe 4 of them went through. So we passed 2 of them over to the Senate. The Senate passed them, sent them to the governor. What do you think he did? Veto. So one came back to the House, and the House overrode the veto. You have to have two-thirds vote to override a veto. We overrode it and went over to the Senate, and 5 legislators swapped their votes. So that didn't happen. Same thing happened with the other bill. The 5 bills came over, or they didn't override his veto. One was 1136, and what that bill did is said the governor cannot change laws during the emergency. And the other one was 135, and it basically limited the length of his emergency. So he can call an emergency, but we were going to set some time limits, 30 days or 60 days. We've finagled back and forth. So both of those bills got out of the House twice. And I'm going to name the names of the legislators that swapped their votes. So they flipped Patty Ann Lodge, Jim Guthrie. You can boo at some of these. Every time I read one of these names, I'm like, oh, that's the guy that, I better not say that. Okay, Fred Martin, James Patrick, Lee Hyder, and our very own Senator Jim Woodward. Nice guy, just working for the wrong team, I think. So what we did in the House, so the House is a little more conservative than the Senate. So what we did in the House was we took those bills and we turned them into 5 different bills. So we just put them into little tiny chunks for the Senate. And we sent those over when we left, and so I'm guessing that that'll come through this week. Tomorrow, I'm back on the floor tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock. So we'll see where that is. Okay, that's all on the governors. I could go on, but K-12 education and the higher education budgets and integrity in our schools. How many people have heard of critical race theory? Yeah, that's what we're going to get into. Now, I've missed all my... Sorry, I got to backtrack for a minute. I had all this stuff I wanted to show you, and I had little highlights when to do it. Before we get into critical race, I just wanted to tell you that the preliminary numbers are out for the deaths. Last year, that pandemic, how bad it was, right? Our death rate in 2019 was less than 1% for Idaho. And who wants to guess what it was in 2020? Less than 1%. Pretty much identical. So that's just the facts. I know sometimes those are disturbing, but that's just the facts. I'm going to go back to those veto-proof bills, because I didn't hit this. A lot of our senators are afraid of IACI. IACI is the Idaho Association of Commerce and Industry. It is the largest conglomerate of businesses in Idaho. A lot of them are big corporations that are tied to the World Economic Forum. They're the big boys. They're big. I think I get into them a little bit later, but they wrote us a letter. Well, they wrote the senators a letter. They have given up on the House because we just don't really care. We keep passing good bills out. They said, we respectfully request withdrawal of legislation being considered that would effectively end the emergency declaration regarding the response to COVID. So day one, I brought a bill to end the emergency. Well, the Senate couldn't be outdone, so they ran a bill. So my bill said, we're going to end the emergency, period. Theirs said, we're going to end the emergency as long as there's no federal money coming. They never let that bill be heard, but this was a letter from IACI, and this is the group, the conglomerate of the big corporations, the lobby groups that run your legislators. And I'll encourage you, and we can go over how to do it later, but you need to track where the money is coming into this district and across the state. These are the guys that are running our state. I hate to give them that much credit, but what someone told me, the golden rule, he who owns the gold writes the rules. That's what these guys are doing. So I wanted to touch on that. Okay, I think I'm caught up. Okay, critical race theory in the schools. So how many people read the newspapers? You shouldn't be embarrassed. Go ahead and raise your hand. Good, okay. I know some of you are afraid. They lie. The newspapers lie a lot. So it's fake. A lot of it's fake. A lot of it's completely made up. So don't believe everything you hear. I've had lots of calls this week about wolf issues, and I don't know what they wrote in there about that, but I haven't seen that yet. But what they, the headlines were the House Republicans, of course it's always the Republicans, the House Republicans hate teachers. I don't think they went that far. Will not fund the schools this year. Similar down that line. And so I don't know how many people read some headline like that, or something about the legislature does not care about the schools, or they hate the kids, or maybe I'm exaggerating a bit. Yes, maybe not much. So I'm going to tell you what that was all about. And, they probably got their story. They probably didn't get the whole story. So critical race theory and social justice ideology is being taught in our schools and our colleges, even in Idaho. And public funds should never, ever be used to push hate and racism. But that's what's happening. And we pretty much figured it out. And so I'm going to just briefly tell you what critical race theory is and social justice so you have an idea. It's rooted in Marxism, and everything in society, everything in your everyday life is viewed through the lens of racism, sexism, and power. It tries to make these kids feel bad because they were born a certain color or they came from a certain type of family. Everyone's judged on their color of skin, not what they do, not what they produce. And if you are a minority color or race, you are a victim. And everyone that's a majority race, they are an oppressor. And that is the lens that you view going into this. And then what's critical about it is you need to look for racism in everything, every part of what's happening. And that's your critical race theory. So I'm going to give you a good example that I heard. So if you own a store and you have a black person and a white person walk in that store at the exact same moment, if you wait on the white person first, it's because you're racist, because you think the white person is better than the black person. If you wait on the black person first, then you're racist, because you think that they're going to steal something from your store and you want to keep an eye on them. That's critical race theory. That's what, and when I say that this is in our schools, it is deep into our schools. You'll hear it as equity and diversity, and there's all these fluffy words. I just found this article. It's a webinar. I think I got invited to this. It's on dismantling family privilege and white supremacy in families. And family privilege is defined as the benefits, often indivisible and unknowledgeable, that one receives by belonging to a family that's considered standard in society. Maybe like a two-parent family. It says it's a nuclear family. So this is the nonsense. They're dividing these kids. And so back to the we hate children in schools and teachers. The way Idaho works is we get tons of bills on funding everything. Everything has to be funded by the legislature unless it's an emergency and the governor gets to divvy out what he wants to his buddies. So, that was a joke. That's what he did. It's not really that funny, but. Okay, so we have all these bills coming through, and we kept saying to our leadership, we need to address critical race theory. We need to address this. We need to stop funding this. We talked to groups of students from the colleges, and day one, in an engineering class, a 300 level, so that's a sophomore level, the first assignment is tell how you as a white man engineer is privileged and over the other students. These are assignments. And Boise State, they send them through this tunnel of shame, and if you're a white student, they make you go through this thing and they yell slurs and foul language to you. There was really good testimony from one of the legislators' children that had gone through that. So if you heard the stuff that's going in at the colleges, you would never send your kids to school. I pretty much guarantee it. And then you add to that, just a preliminary look, over $20 million is being put into these equity centers and multicultural student centers where they're pumping this stuff through. They're doing Black Lives Matter stuff. If you go to, I think it's the one in Moscow, the Idaho State, or is it University of Idaho? They got it on their website, Black Lives Matter, speakers. This is your taxpayer dollars are paying for this. So finally we said, we're gonna start killing bills, and I don't think they believed us. So we started with the teacher's salary, or funding the teachers. I think at that point they knew we were serious, and then we killed funding the 4 colleges, and then they're like, ooh. Which reminds me, 188 of the top 250 highest paid employees in this state are from the colleges. Starting at $1.4 million, going down to $150,000. If you want to look at this, it's pretty interesting. They're some of the highest paid employees in the state. Okay, so the headline said we hate teachers, and I even got a letter from a prisoner telling me what a bad person I was. This had to crack me up because he has a family member that's a teacher, and he was in Boise prison for a little longer, and he was really angry at me because I voted against the teachers. So, thank God he didn't have my home address. So, media freaked out, but we got a victory out of it. We passed a bill, House Bill 377, and it's not the perfect bill, they never are, but it addresses the problem with the critical race theory. And I don't have can somebody just tell me the time real quick? I'm sorry to do 6:43? 23, okay, good. Okay, I might read you a little bit of it. So, let's see. So we got this bill passed. For once, Idaho was leading something. I think we were the first state in the nation to actually address critical race theory. And it's not great, but it says no public institution of higher education, school districts, or public school, including charter schools, shall direct or otherwise compel students to personally affirm, adopt, adhere to any of the following: same-sex, or that any race, sex, ethnicity, religion, color, national origin is superior or inferior. They're not allowed to bring up stuff committed by the past by members of the same sex, race. You kind of hear they're not allowed to do distinctions of classifications of students, and they're not allowed to, no course of instruction or unit of study directing or compelling students to personally affirm, adopt, or adhere to any of the tenets identified above. So it's a good start. We still need to keep an eye on the funding, but it's a huge victory for Idaho. And I think it really is. But government never stops. And my next topic, critical race theory for children age 0 to 5. Yeah. So, have you heard, how many people get my newsletters? Great. So 1193, I think I've asked you, hey, if you're interested, please call your legislators. You don't need to call me, you need to call the other ones when I do that. So that bill has not died yet. We had a bill that basically was going to give $6 million to one nonprofit. And this nonprofit is, let's see what the name of it is, the Idaho Association for the Education of Young Children. Yeah. And so this one nonprofit is tied, so they were going to get the $6 million, and they get to divvy it out to who they want. And they're associated with, of course, the National Association of Education of Young Children. So when we first had this bill, it was a bill 226, and it came through, and Representative Giddings, I think many of you know Giddings, yes. She started bringing it up, and she started saying this is wrong, and she actually went to the library and got some of the books off the website, the Idaho website. And if you've got my newsletter, you saw those books. A is for activist, and pushing. I mean, I've got a sample of that up here. Just horrible stuff putting to these kids. And so let me just see what else I want to say about this. So as soon as we killed 226 on the House floor, here's what's frustrating. We only killed it by, I think, 1 vote. So that gives you an idea of what we're dealing with down there. This is something really, really bad, and we're within 1 vote of killing it. So we killed it, victory, and what happens? The Senate reproduces a similar bill. They change 1 word in it, so it's a brand new bill. And it comes back as 1193. And that has been sitting on our calendar now every day. And leadership waits, and they do vote count. I'm sure they do vote counts, and like, oh, so-and-so's not here. And I know they're going to try to spring it the last day, because what happens is people want to go home. I want to go home. But I'm not going to, change my principles because I want to get out of there. And so they're going to try to bring this through, I think, probably tomorrow. First day back, no one paying attention. It wouldn't surprise me if it shows up for a vote. So hopefully you continue to call on that. There's a whole bunch about that, but I'm gonna stop there so I don't bore you on that thing. But it's for ages 0 to 5. We don't even do preschool in this state. And I also just, hold on a minute. I just found out that I wish it was Trump, I mean Biden. Joe Biden planning $1 trillion more in spending for child care and universal preschool. So, and then also, Biden set to push critical race theory in U.S. schools. This is coming from the federal government. This is coming from all the ARPA money. You've heard of the ARPA money? I think I have that coming up here. All that money comes with strings attached. And it's coming like an avalanche. And so what I would suggest is get involved in your local schools. go to every school board meeting, ask to look at their curriculum, ask to talk to the teachers. As much as you don't want to do that and you say, I don't have kids in school, why should I do that? These are going to be the people in society, you know, someday taking care of us when we're really old, right? They're going to be the next generation, and if we do not stop this cancer from infiltrating our schools, that's our best hope, because it's coming from the feds. And I know it's in, I've got so many examples, and that's another issue with the media. I stood up on the House floor and started reading from a teacher some of the examples, and one of her examples was To Kill a Mockingbird. Well, of course, the media got that wrong. Heather Scott believes in racism and hates To Kill a Mockingbird. I don't even know that I've read that book. I shouldn't have said that publicly, because I have some teachers after me. But this was a teacher's observation from the classroom, what she's seen, how they're taking classic books and pushing the critical race theory through them. So it's really concerning, and probably spend enough time on that. All right. Election integrity. Who wants to talk about elections? Well, you know, it's when you get federal money coming, I don't know what's going to happen. You know, you need a good Secretary of State. You need good people at your county clerk's offices. We all need to be going and being poll workers, like it or not. It's just one day, 4 times a year. We need to go and show up, because the bad people are showing up. Okay, so elections, I'm not going to go through all these. I probably will in my year end. They passed a ton of election bills, some dealing with the dates and deadlines, candidate withdrawals, weekend and holiday deadlines, recalls, election integrity to eliminate August election dates. Now, this has been I'll touch on this just a brief bit here. So I always get a lot of questions about these levies. And someone called me and told me that there was a commercial out there that I was supporting the levy, and someone else told me I don't support the levy. So I have not taken a stance. I haven't even paid attention to the levy. I've been in Boise. You can probably figure out where I stand, but I have not publicly said where I stand. That being said, I ran a bill a couple years ago that said when the voters say no, respect that vote for 1 year. Just 1 year. The mere principle that you can ask the voters their opinion and then 3 months later rerun the same bill or the same levy, it basically says we don't give a crap about you. And that to me is wrong. If they want to pass a levy, they need to educate the voters on what they're going to do with the money. I didn't bring the money that's coming from the feds, but all the schools are getting a ton of money. I don't know about Priest River. I think I've sent it to someone here that might have the information, but I will say this, your vote should mean something for more than a month. So that being said, we've tried, you can't get it past the Senate. We had a ton of good bills. They all get stopped in the Senate. And the best I think we maybe got is they got rid of one August election just so the Secretary of State can clean up the books and get the digital stuff all cleaned up or whatever he needs to do maintenance-wise. So that might be a little bit of relief, no August levy votes or bonds, but that's probably the best. There's some voter integrity stuff, there's registration integrity, there's cleanup items, there's a whole bunch of, a big slate of election laws, probably too many to go through, and so I don't know that Idaho is a big fraud state. Literally, you have to be at those polling booths. A lot of this fraud has happened digitally, and I just don't know how to stop that. And you need a Secretary of State that will check the machines and Secretary of State's up for election this year, as is, when I say this year, I mean this coming May election. May is when it's going to be a huge year. It's when you can replace every single legislator, your governor, your lieutenant governor, your Secretary of State, everyone's up for election in May. You have to vote in May. Don't wait till November, because next May, we're in May now. Next May. But now is the time to be thinking like that. Okay, I'm going to get back onto my list here. Are you bored? No. Okay. Okay, next is the ARPA money. So we had a bill. So we never were allowed to have the conversation, do we take the federal money or do we resist the federal money? I had private conversations with leadership and said, we need to have the conversation. We don't want to take the federal money. We sure don't want to take it if a lot of this federal money, the rules are not written with it. So they're going to give us the money and then they're going to write the strings attached. That's how a lot of it's happening. So that was not a horribly close vote, but there were a lot of people that voted no to that. I being one of them, and I think your senator voted in order to take the federal money. So this bill just basically set up the structure for that, and that, unfortunately, that passed. And once you get the structure, it's free for all. I mean, it's bill after bill after bill for money. Is some of it going to go to good things? Sure, but and the excuse I hear is, if we don't take it, a blue state will take it. Well, we're pretty much blue in my opinion. But, just 2 months ago, we had a huge surplus, right? Idaho, we're the only state in the union that wasn't in the red after COVID shutdowns. Probably because most people just ignored them up here. We probably kept the rest of the state going. But they are pumping more federal money into our state than our entire budget for a year. So $2 billion. You can't stop it. There's going to be money flowing everywhere. Hyperinflation is coming, in my opinion. So, okay, I want to move on, but that's, as soon as this money comes in, then of course there's all these agencies that have all these projects that they need. Look for growth. I mean, that's what's coming. They're going to just bloat up these agencies, and we have to. I don't know how you stop it. I just don't know until enough people figure it out and start pushing back. I'll say this again, and people hate to hear it, but it is so different up here than it is in Boise. It is a different world down there. I've been down there 4 months, 5 months. Everybody wears a mask. Everybody except the legislators. Everybody. And you go to a store, I've got kicked out of stores and restaurants. I won't wear one. I haven't worn one yet. And until I get on the flight tomorrow. I had a choice, either cancel this and drive down. I couldn't do both, so I'm wearing a mask for you. And it's not going to be pleasant. Okay, let's move on. Second Amendment. Who wants to? I know someone here that wants to talk about the Second Amendment. Sam Hogue moved to this state because of our Second Amendment laws here. So once again, we had a really good bill. Senator Zito from down in the southern end of the state worked with the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance. If you're going to give money to a gun group, this is the group that fights for Idahoans and for our gun laws. They are the ones that were instrumental in permitless carry. They are the leading edge, and no other group, I will say that. So anyway, she had a great bill. They were ready day one. Would not let her hear the bill. she's now a senator, Senator Zito. They wouldn't let her hear it, and then 2 weeks ago, they came up with their own version of the bill. So it's a little watered down, but it's better than nothing. And I will start by telling you, we have a really good constitution when they want to follow it, for the right to bear arms. And so it's Article 1, Section 11. You know what? I'm standing on my tippy toes. I got to do something different. I've been on my tippy toes because I'm not tall enough. Am I going to mess this up? Okay. Could you tell? Okay, that's a little better. Okay, so our Constitution is great for the Second Amendment, and I'm just going to read you the end of it. You should. It's all online. You can just Google Idaho State Constitution, but the end it says, no law shall impose licensure, registration, or special taxation on the ownership or possession of firearms or ammunitions, nor shall any law permit the confiscation of firearms except those that are actually used in the commission of the felony. So it's really good already. But I think there's always that fear that the feds are going to come in. And I will say, of everything in Idaho, they're not coming for our guns. They're not going to, they can try, but they'll try, but we are so, every year we pass a gun law. I mean, I don't know how many more, we're like the #1 in the country for our gun laws and being the best in the nation for your rights. They'll try, but this bill is in particular, what this bill does is it's basically setting up for a lawsuit with the feds. So it starts by saying that ammunition and magazines and guns are essential to Idahoans. It's just part of what we need as Idahoans. It's just a part of our everyday life. And that, let's see what else it says. It says it prohibits government entities from enforcing or supporting the enforcement of new federal actions regarding firearms. See, we set this up in our code back in 2014, and everyone's like, well, aren't we going to be a sanctuary state? And they're always sending me stuff, but Idaho was way ahead of a lot of the gun stuff because we kind of just keep working on it every year. So it's set up so if the feds come in and try to do something, it will be set up so we can sue, and we will have standing in court. And the intent, it says, is the legislator in the state of Idaho hereby declares the right to keep and bear arms is necessary to the safety and security of the state of Idaho and its citizens, and is essential for its citizens as a fundamental right of self-defense, and is a right that may not be unconstitutionally infringed on by the United States or the state of Idaho, political subdivisions, or local government agencies. So there's a lot of language in it. You can read it. I might have brought a copy of it, but I think we're going to be good. They're going to come for every other right except our guns. I'm pretty sure of that. They're going to deplatform us, our freedom of speech, our right to assemble. There's so many more things that we need to not let slip by because we're so concerned about our guns. Our guns are important, don't get me wrong, but we're going to lose every other right but them if we don't start concentrating on some of the other stuff. So I think we're good. It's set up for a lawsuit, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure if it's in the second version, but if the AG will not go back and fight it for us in court, then the legislature can pick someone to go fight for us. I'm not sure that made the second bill, but they've tried to think of everything. So that's what I'm going to say on guns, unless there's questions and answers, and then I'll tell you to talk to Sam. Okay, abortion. We continue to kill babies in this state, and I've realized this year it hit me, they're all being killed down in the Boise area, all around like 20 miles from the Capitol. We kill 29 babies a week, 1,500 a year in this state. And every year we pass 1 or 2 pro-life bills. And they keep being sold to the people as pro-life bills, and they're not pro-life. And I can go through the bills with you and tell you why they're not pro-life. The pro-life groups are using these bills to fundraise on the citizens, to come back and say, we passed this bill, give us money, we're keeping up the fight. The heartbeat bill does nothing. You've been sold a bill of goods that is not true. What the heartbeat bill does, besides kills, I'll go through the heartbeat bill with you, because so I vote against these bills, and the news, you're going to see the news, Heather Scott's pro-abortion. That's nothing. Go look at my floor speeches, why I'm pro-life. Pro-life is kind of like people saying they're conservative. There's a lot of rhinos that use that conservative word. Just because we're pro-life I'm down there to stop the killing of babies in our state. And so when they tell you, so what they do every time they run a pro-life bill is they put stuff in our code that is making it even harder to stop killing babies in our state. They have codified many times rape and incest babies. They have put in our code now telemed abortions that you can do abortion by telemed. They have put in our code now that you can the colleges can experiment with fetal or for aborted babies parts, or they wouldn't tell us what parts, but they were comfortable with it. So these are coming from pro-life groups, and I just want you to know that pregnancy centers are one thing. They're helping mothers, they're encouraging not to get abortions, but these pro-life groups out of Boise that are telling you that they're ending abortion and they're fighting the good fight are feeding you a bill of goods. And so this most recent heartbeat bill, of course, it's made the news, and of course, Governor Little signed it. It does absolutely nothing. So what it says is, if a mother comes in with a baby, the abortionist, the guy that's going to give her an abortion, has to listen for a heartbeat. And if he hears a heartbeat, you'd think that he would not do an abortion. Well, first he says, well, if it's an incest or rape baby, he can still give you an abortion. But if it has a heartbeat, what the law says is he cannot abort that baby, but. And you don't hear the but in the headlines. And what the but says is he can't kill that baby, but this law will not go into effect unless the appellate court does this and passes a law in another state or another jurisdiction that makes this constitutional. Well, the Supreme Court has said we cannot define abortion before 6 weeks. And so what that does is it makes this bill null and void. It would be good if it would go into effect. What it is a judicial supremacy bill. It basically says we bow down to the federal government. When the federal government gives us permission to not kill babies in our state, we'll stop killing babies. That's what the pro-life abortion bill did. So you'll see that I vote against all these bills. I stand up and testify against every one of them. So when people say I'm not pro-life, you can tell them I'm not for killing babies or lying to people to take their money to pretend like these groups are saving lives. Okay, sorry, I went into that a long time. And I always, the other thing I will say about abortion is if we believe in federal supremacy, the feds say, tell us when we can kill babies and when we can't, then do we believe in federal supremacy with our guns? When the feds tell us that you can't have an AR-15, if you use the same argument they're using with babies, our state will outlaw AR-15s. That's why I do not agree with these federal supremacy laws. All right, no more on that. Other bills. Now I'm just going to randomly hit bills to just give you a quick synopsis on some bills. We passed a water credit bill for pollution, so we have inserted all this federal code into our state law, so our DEQ, Department of Environmental Quality, is basically enforcing the federal code. We're doing this for transportation laws, we're doing it in agriculture, and we're doing it in environmental laws. And so they're so stringent, and these cities can't even, they can't meet the standards. So now they're allowing the cities to buy water credits for pollution. So if they're polluting too much, they can't get the water to where the feds want it, then they can pay a farmer to put in a wetland, and it's kind of like carbon credits, this exact same thing, that's happening. How many people, you don't have to raise your hand, you always hear chemtrails. A lot of people contact me on chemtrails, and people say it's conspiracy, and people say it's not. It's called cloud seeding, and it's done by Idaho Power, and we did pass a bill on it. So when people say it's a conspiracy, you can I can give you the bill number, you can show them a bill that we passed in Idaho, the chemicals that they're spraying, and they say it helps with rainfall. And I think they've done studies on it and say it does. It depends on the chemicals they're using, but we did pass a cloud seeding bill this year. State parks. How many people have tried to get into a state park this year and have not been able to get in because it was full? Oh, I thought this was a bigger deal. You guys just camp in the wilderness and at your places. Okay, so we doubled the fee for the out-of-staters. This gave me heartache because I 99.9999% of the time vote against any fee increase, any tax increase, but because it was all out-of-staters and they're taking up all the campsites, and I keep getting complaints after complaint, people want to go camping, they call in ahead of time and they lock up all the spots. That has been passed. We passed some bills on initiatives. I know that's a controversial subject. Initiatives are where you get enough signatures to put something on the ballot. It's allowing the people to put something on the ballot. I think a couple bills have been passed on that, but the big one I would say is it says every district in the state, there's 35 legislative districts, has to get the signatures, 6% of the people. So they can't just go to Ada County and say, we're gonna pass this anti-gun law, get enough signatures in Ada County or just some of the liberal counties. It's gotta go through every district, if that makes sense. Some people will hate that, some people will like it, but it will protect. It's how Medicaid expansion got on the ballot. So the Democrats ran this ground game across the state, and they got the ballot initiative that said Medicaid expansion for Idaho. And once the legislator got that, it became law as soon as they got the signatures and they voted on it. And the legislature could vote to get rid of it, but they're chicken. They won't ever do that, even if the Democrats are super organized. So there are some protections there. A hemp bill got passed. Hemp is the plant, the growing of the plant that you make rope and other stuff out of. It is highly regulated. I would suggest if you're going to do that, be super careful. You're probably going to go to jail. The Idaho State Police, it's all about police state with that bill. So I would, if you're going to do that, talk to me if you want to grow hemp, and I'll point you to people that can help work you through that system. I voted against it just because it took it out of the ag sector and moved it into Idaho State Police, and there's a lot of problems with it, in my opinion. We did pass a constitutional amendment. It will be on the ballot that we can call ourselves back into session. Yeah. But believe it or not, we can do it anyway. It just takes leadership, and we don't have leadership. So it's really convoluted. It's like all these. It's crazy, some of the stuff. But okay, wolves. I guess this hit the paper, and I've had a lot of calls on it. And so normally Fish and Game takes care of all the regulations and everything wildlife unless they're not doing what the people need done. And then the legislator steps in. And so they stepped in on the wolf issue. It is a huge problem. Some of the management of it is out of control. They've stopped doing counts on them, so they don't even know how many wolves they have. So that's why the legislature got involved. The bill was negotiated between Farm Bureau and Foundation for Wildlife Management up here. They're the big wolf group up here. Ag guys, a lot of people had their fingers on this bill. It could have been worse for those of you that don't want to see a single wolf killed, because one of them was going to make them all predators in open season. So it was negotiated. The legislature had to do something because the Fish and Game is not addressing it. I put an article out a long time ago about the corporations, basically the involvement with our government and how they work together in team, and how our Fish and Game actually teams with enviro groups. And I can give you examples. They do it for the money, but that's a whole nother talk. So anyway, what this bill does is it expands the options and the opportunities for the management of wolves. You can use private contractors. You can use any method utilized for taking of other game for canines. The wolf trapping season is going to be open year-round on private property. All wolf tags will be valid for hunting, trapping, snaring in any unit when seasons are open at the time of take. There'll be no limit on the number of wolf tags an individual can purchase, and you still have to get the training from Fish and Game. So, okay, vaccine passports, health districts, vaccinations in general. I got two names for you to remember: Fred Wood, Fred Martin. Both of those guys run the health and welfare committees. They won't let those bills go through. We got tons of good bills to stop this stuff. Forced vaccinations. I just saw Simplot is forcing their employees to be vaccinated now. You're going to start, the hospitals are probably, they're all going to try it. We have so many bills to make it illegal, we can't get them through the committees. Poor leadership, once again. I could go on and on and on. Health districts. Our health districts are out of control. If you followed me before, you know the health districts are regional government. So it's not like there's elected officials. It's kind of tricky, right? Your county commissioners, maybe 2 county commissioners are there, and then a person in the public, and then it's a region. So they're making decisions on a region, not on your jurisdictional boundaries. That's dangerous. All regional government, you lose control. And so we had many bills to rein in our health districts with these forced masking and fining people. I don't know if they actually fine, they just threaten to fine. We finally got a really weak bill through, but not with the help of either of these chairmen. People were trying to be creative to get bills that would go through other committees, because these guys basically, the process is broken. And we've been working on that. I've got a little good news at the end of how we are making progress on that. So anyway, we did pass one bill, and it basically, it's kind of weakly written, so I don't know if they'll try to get around it, but it says, in order for a district board of health, when they apply a mandate to all the areas, the Board of County Commissioners within each effective county have to consult with them, and they'll determine by resolution whether or not to approve the order within the county limits. So I think we'll have the option, if we have good county commissioners, to say, no, we're not going to do the mask mandate in Bonner County. Okay. I'm going to move quickly. I'm almost done, and then we'll do Q&A. Can someone give me a time check? Oh, okay, I'll hurry. Okay, I'll skip that one. So when I first started, we could not kill a bill on the House floor. Once it gets out of committee, it's sailing through. We have built up a Liberty team down there, kind of under the radar. They don't always agree on every bill. We've killed 15 bills on the House floor that they thought were going to sail right through. So we are making progress. The next election will determine everything. So I have a list here, and I'm going to read through it really quick, but we have a ton of really good bills that made it out of the House that the committee chairman in the Senate refused to hear. So these are your ideas, these are citizens' ideas that they will not let go through. Patty Ann Lodge from State Affair has 30 bills she's sitting on. Bills like gold and silver reserves, a business bill of rights so they can't come after your businesses, gun rights on school property, ending the emergency. Senator Jim Rice, he's sitting on, lemonade and cookie stands so these kids don't get harassed by the health districts. He's sitting on that bill because they don't like personalities. Property tax cuts. Stephen Thane is sitting on bills for parental opt-in for sex ed. Let me just tell you this. There are some books on sex ed. I don't know who's involved with the libraries. If you're involved in the libraries, raise your hand. Nobody. Okay. We need people to join those library boards, to look at the books in the library. We need churches to go in through that library, and when they find smut in our libraries, check those books out for 2 weeks, and then check them out to the next person. I have 3 books for a 4-year-old, a 7-year-old, and 10-year-old. And the pictures in them were so graphic that I had to get an AG's opinion that if I photocopied these and shared them, if I was going to get in trouble for child pornography. These are for 4-year-olds, 4 and over, 7 and over, and 10 and over. They're horrible. And they're making their way into our libraries. I don't know if we have them up here. I'm guessing Sandpoint maybe has a few. But I looked into some of the book reading programs. They're promoting some of the same authors that are putting this smut out. You should definitely pay attention. Just go spend some time in the kids section in the library. So anyway, we had a bill that basically said this sex ed, they're teaching all kinds of garbage in sex ed with the kids besides the critical race theory. We basically said if you're going to teach anything besides anatomy, you got to have the parents opt in, because and we have a chairman that's just sitting on that bill. It passed through the House fine. They won't hear it. Jim Patrick's sitting on 8 bills, vaccination freedom protections. Fred Martin, he's sitting on prohibiting forced vaccinations, mask mandates, limiting city quarantine orders. And then the House is doing the same thing. Even our very own is sitting on bills. We've got bills to repeal Common Core, vaccination freedom, rent control, parental rights bills, small arms protection, and to end abortion. They won't hear these bills. So it's frustrating. I'm not sure what else to do, but I'm going to expose them at the end of the year, every chairman. And we got to get the word out that these chairmen are sitting on bills. Okay, now I'm going to go through these really quick. Other issues. If you read my earlier newsletters, they're changing all the shalls in our bills to must and mays. And it's strategic. I know it is. You don't have the energy to spend so much time on going through thousands of pages of administrative rules. I'll look through the DEQ rules, Department of Environmental Quality. Everywhere it talked about the citizens, it said the citizens must do this, and the citizens must do this. And then when it talked about the government may, the government, they even got rid of it. So the government will do this, or, they weakened the language when it came to government, but when it came to the citizens, it was really restrictive. That's going on throughout our administrative code, which is all the rules that they make you follow. It's also working its way into our bills. My big fear with that is our Constitution. Everybody knows what shall not be infringed upon is. What they're trying to say is shall doesn't mean shall anymore. It's not very strong. Well, it's strong when it comes, we all know it's strong when it comes to the Second Amendment, but if they start changing our words And the executive branch, it came out of Brad Little's office, so it's coming. Water adjudication, if you were not involved in the water adjudication last year, this whole area is going to be under the water adjudication, and it sounds like a scary process, but it's a process that they're going to come up and talk about, but you'll need to fill out paperwork for your water rights. And I've researched this a ton. I was adamantly opposed to it, but I actually did it on my property. I think we need to do it, and I can get into that later. I don't have time to go through it tonight, but when you hear water adjudication, if you see it in the paper, be alert it's coming. You'll need to just fill out a simple paperwork, and what you could be doing now is if you have a creek on your property, or if you have water rights on your property or on a river or something, pull up your old documents, start pulling that stuff together now. If you got old pictures that your property was homesteaded, pull that together, because when they do this, that will give you first in time, any old things you have. IACI, I talked about how they're running our state. Oh, Greater Idaho. Who sat in on my Zoom call? Couple. I've been doing these live Zoom calls. So Oregon's pretty serious. They want to join Idaho, and they've got that map. If you can see the blue on it, those are all counties that they've actually either voted or it's on their ballots this time. They're voting to come to Idaho. These guys are serious. I've sat in on a couple conference calls. They came and spoke to the Idaho legislature this year, to the House and Senate, and one of their main guys is actually the old Speaker of the House for Oregon. I mean, these guys are serious. So if you hear about Greater Idaho, they want to join us. They're all that state, they said they're going to purge all the Trump people. So I don't know what their governor's doing. IACI, like I talked about, that's the group. They're the large corporations. They're running Idaho legislators. The Senate are terrified of IACI because they put so much money into elections. Many of the members of the Idaho Association of Commerce and Industry are actually partners with the World Economic Forum. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's global stuff. So they've got a plan, the Great Reset. Bayer, Micron, Idaho Forest Group, Potlatch, Johnson & Johnson, Fluor, and the list goes on. These members are actually on the global website saying they want to promote the Great Reset. These are people that are giving money to legislators. It's kind of good to keep an eye on that. If you wonder where all the plans are coming to our state, it's through the Governors Association. I think if you get my newsletters, you've heard of this before, but our governor is part of the National Governors Association. And I've got documentation here from 2018. It says the National Governors Association and the World Economic Forum announce a new partnership. You wonder where all these crazy ideas are coming to Idaho. You wonder how the mask mandates and the signs and the vaccination and all the commercials and the logo and the cookie cutter plans like all the other states, it's coming through the Governors Association right into our state.
Look at the partners, the platinum, gold, silver, all the way down, and it's 3M through Zoom.
Yeah,
And
there's
all of the vaccines.
they got plans for all this stuff, and if you go dig around on their websites, you'll see exactly what they're doing and how they're doing it and implementing it. This is all on digital currency. The World Economic Forum on Digital Currency and Governance Consortium. Now, what's interesting about this one is we had 2 bills this year that raised my hackles. House Bill 327 and 328 on digital assets and the Idaho Utility Token Act. These are coming, governing the coin. World Economic Forum announces global consortium for digital currency governance. These 2 bills came into our legislature this year. Now, they didn't make it very far, but they did make it to our calendar 2 weeks before we get out, when we thought we were going to get out a month and a half ago. a legislator from our district is sponsoring these bills. That's how bad it is. And so you got to follow the money. You got to look at what's going on. That's happening. Go look at the donations from our legislators. Up here, yes. Okay, I'm not going to go any deeper. Bill Gates, he's bought a lot of farmland in our state, so if you see him around, tell him I said hi. No, don't. What I found out this year in my environment committee is Idaho Nuclear Laboratories, over on the eastern end of the state, they do nuclear reactors, and they do all kinds of nuclear stuff. And they just did a $400 million contract with TerraPower. And then I found out, well, guess who runs TerraPower? Bill Gates. Making small nuclear reactors. So then you kind of you can read this global stuff, and then you can actually see it work through our state and how it's coming. And so what else I found out is he's got big plans for these nuclear reactors, maybe on the Snake River, maybe why they're going to pull the dams out. I don't know, but it all starts to make sense when you put two and two together. What do you need hydropower for if you got nuclear power, right? They're both clean. Anyway, just things to know. Our governor's involved with reimagining the rural West, reimagining our workforce. I talked about that. 5G, they need to communicate. That's the 5G. There's some people in the crowd, they've been working really hard on just trying to understand 5G, they need real-time data. And so we all want high-speed internet, and there are ways to do it, and there's safe ways, and I know there's some experts here that have been talking to the city councils and to the county about what's going on. Okay, a few more things, I'm done. Promise. Bad news, super aggressive left. They are empowered with this new administration. They are so vicious. I mean, everything I put on Facebook, if you get a chance to just write nice things on Facebook, but if you got off Facebook, like I told you to do, good. But I'm still on. So if you're still on, feel free to let me know if I got to remove stuff. I don't follow it much, but these people are vicious. There's a group down there called the 97%. Wonder how they came up with that name. Probably because all the 3%ers are up here. They think they're telling people they're the majority, they're great, and they are vicious. And they are attacking conservatives. They are using our ethics committee. They are demanding people be removed from office, people resign. They've weaponized our ethics committee, and they're working, I think they have to be working with our leadership. I know they're working with the media hand in hand. I've got proof of that. So it's gonna be a battle for the next, I don't know how many months it is till about a year. Next year, it's gonna be like it was about 5 years ago. If you remember how crazy it was during the election, people were saying they got attacked by people, and it's going to be ugly. These people are out for blood. So I would encourage you to just get to know the candidates, make sure you know and support them publicly. And the county commissioners, the school board members, we need good people to run for office. They're going to be intimidated when they step up and try to run for these city council, mayors, all of them. That was kind of bad news. I talked about the ethics committee kind of weaponized. The media lies, I think everybody knows that. They're starting, I brought an old note from years ago. Marginalize. First they marginalize you, I think they've done that to me. Demonize you, criminalize you, litigate, incarcerate, exterminate. That's their MO. That is their MO. And they're starting with the litigating against legislators. I mean, these people are evil. They want to shut down the truth however they can. So that's coming. Good news. Pandemic's over, in my opinion. And the facts kind of say that, but But Boise's still wearing those masks. People are waking up. I have been meeting on the weekends down there with a group of leaders. And it's like a group of leaders of other groups. And there's so many people that have moved here from other states, a lot of them California, and they know what's coming. They know how bad it got. And these people, they have time, they have resources, they have money, and they are committed to not letting Idaho turn. And I told them, I told them, North Idaho's tired of fighting on our own. We need help. And I think they've heard me. They are literally committed. They understand the rhinos down there because they're full of rhinos. They understand that just because there's an R after the name does not mean that they're voting for the people. And so these people, they're very committed, and I think we're going to start seeing help come from the South, which is great. I'm so happy about that. I think the establishment has overplayed its hand a bit. I think they're going to keep getting exposed more and more. You know, I won't get into I'll stop there. Redistricting is coming up. You don't know what that means? Maybe you do. The districts right now, 35 districts across the state, they're going to redraw the lines. So my guess, I'm not going to be your legislator anymore. I'm guessing they're going to put me in Kootenai County or something. That's how they do it. I hope they don't, but I'll still represent you. But they're going to do that in November or December. People are going to be confused. You know, people that think they're running against somebody are not going to be in that district. So I just want to let you be aware of that. The lines are going to change. Those people is anyone here from Sago that's in District 7? You poor people. You might be back in District 1 now with the rest of your county. I don't know what they're going to do, but it's never good when it comes from the machine. There's so much more. Biden executive orders. If you're really bored and you want to read, if you want to know how to play the stock market, you read any of these executive orders. There's 40 some of them now, and I haven't spent a lot of time on it, but I pulled out this one probably a month ago, and I thought it was worth mentioning. This is tackling the climate crisis at home and abroad. And you think, I don't want to read that garbage, who cares? But you want to know what's coming down the pipe? Go read some of his executive orders. It's scary. And so I'll just, that one's on the climate. I was going to highlight some stuff, but I don't want to leave you with something bad. I had some verses I was going to start with, and I think I've lost them. So, Yep. Proverbs 11:11. So, the only thing that keeps me going down there is my Bible. I read it every morning before I go in. I read a Proverbs like the day. So like if it's the 11th day, I read Proverbs 11. And so today was the 11th day. And so 2 verses stuck out this morning. The good influence of godly citizens causes a city to prosper, but the moral decay of the wicked drives it downhill. How true is that? And then your own soul is nourished when you are kind, and it is destroyed when you are cruel. And then Proverbs 11:21, you can be very sure that the evil man will not go unpunished forever. That was good. I like that. Okay, a few more things and I'm going to be done, I promise. I finally got this in a professional look, and I just made my order yesterday, so I have 101 things you can do. And I think someone printed a few and put them on the back table if you want to take one, or if you want to wait till I get them. If you can distribute these out, it will give people that they go, I want to get involved, I just don't know what to do. Here's 101 things. I had to change it from 110, it wouldn't fit. So you can probably think of some others. Maybe we'll do a part 2. Okay, I'm gonna stop. I got a few more things, but maybe they'll come up in questions. Thank you for coming. I'm gonna do Q&A. I won't be offended if you wanna leave now. And, but Vicky's gonna go around with the microphone and do Q&A. So thank you for coming.